Welcome back to Q Dads, guys. It's me, Steve, and wow, what an episode, packed with details on the Mule, Demerzel, Empire, and once again, visuals that somehow top last week's. But before we get into that, I want to focus on one topic first. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us as we cover all things Foundation. And remember, guys, as always, there's going to be no book spoilers here. This is all strictly from the TV side. So if you do leave a comment and it's about the books, just let us know at the start of the comment so people can avoid any major spoilers.
I'd kind of like to meet this Selden fella everyone's always banging on about. Anyone else?
So let's get into it and talk about the one thing that is really playing on our mind at the moment, and that is what we're dubbing the Gaal Paradox. Now, we've touched on it before, but this episode really leaned into it. Gaal had a conversation with Demerzel about the Mule. She saw him 150 years ago and has been working to change the vision that she had. But think about it. 150 years ago, Gaal has a vision on the Mule, which prompts her to learn more, warn others, and tell Pritchard how dangerous he is. Pritchard then hunts the Mule down, attempts to confront him, and that's how the Mule learns her name, Gaal Dornick. Which means, if she hadn't gone looking for him in the first place, the Mule wouldn't have known her name. And maybe the original vision never would have happened. Not only that, but we see in this episode that the Mule has dreams of Gaal. Now, is this because he can see the past, like Sal did? Or is it more we're seeing of the times that Gaal has looked into the future, finally seeing it from the other side, and what it's like for the Mule? I always assumed, though, that these visions were just glimpses, but clearly here she's able to influence the future directly. A bit like that one episode where I believe Sal sort of interferes with the past. I suspect she's only able to do this though with Mentalics. So here's the paradox. Did the vision cause the events, or did the events cause the vision? If the Mule only knows who she is because of her reaction to the vision, then in a way she created the very future she's been trying to prevent. It's a closed loop, one she might not even be able to break, because the cause and effect are tangled, well, together. It also adds another layer of tension. If Gaal tries to change the future, is she actually just setting it in stone? Every attempt she makes to stop the Mule could be the thing that leads him to the exact point she's been fearing. And in this episode, the way the Mule talks about stopping her first makes it feel like he already knows the rules of this game, and maybe, just maybe, he is a few steps ahead. The episode even opens up with that vision of the Mule that I've always mentioned, and he's determined to stop Gaal before she can stop him. Which does make me think, in a weird way, are we assuming that the visions that Gaal and the Mule are having are the same? Or could this be some weird twist that actually Gaal sees the Mule winning and basically killing her, but the Mule is seeing Gaal win and destroy him, hence why his determination is so ferocious against stopping her, because actually all his visions are seeing him lose. Now that's a weird one, so let me know your thoughts on it. Moving on, we then get Gaal's tense conversation with Demerzel. Demerzel actually strangles her, explaining that Dawn is dead, or at least his nanites have stopped transmitting while he's drifting in space. Personally, I hope he's not gone. It always feels a bit cheap when a major death just happens off screen. I do think he's going to pop back up. Well, obviously they can. Today's words just decant another. But would they wipe the memories of Gaal from him? Or will Demerzel leave them in place? As clearly the nanites were still reporting back for a while. And Demerzel is now sort of on the fence between Empire and Foundation. But I would much more like to see him pop back up without being decanted. Almost as a way, too, of making Gaal see the things that she has done. Because Gaal, much like Harry, has become willing to do anything to make her outcome the right one, which obviously is ironic, as she hated Empire originally, as the Cleons would do the same thing. One of the big reveals here, though, is that Gaal didn't know that Demerzel was a robot.
I assumed Dr. Selden informed you I was a robot. I see I was mistaken.
Harry had even aimed the Foundation's plan towards Demerzel, using her memories to refine psychohistory. Now, The words used here are ambiguous. We assume Demerzel only added her memories after Voltari had given her the Radiant. But could that assumption be wrong? Could she have somehow aided before then? I doubt it, but either way, it's clear Harry had always intended for Demerzel to end up with the Radiant. It was also interesting to see that she knew about the change to the maths that Gaal and Harry were doing on Foundation 2, even though she couldn't quite tell who was doing them, calling them shadows. And it seemed like she only just learned that it couldn't predict outliers, like Gaal and the Mule, which means she also couldn't really see how Empire's downfall would happen. Just to add here, a small moment I loved, when Demerzel goes for the second round of accessing Gaal's brain, Gaal hesitates, rightly so, and Demerzel drops a perfect one-liner.
I want to see it.
You wanna do that again?
I phrased it as a suggestion.
And it's amazing how Foundation always sneaks in these quick bits of humour. Now, talking about those accessing of memories, Demerzel uses her own filaments through Gale's senses, almost stepping into the vision herself. She recognises the battle between Gaal and the Mule is taking place on Trantor and inside of the Imperial Library. But she wants to go deeper, well, further I guess is the word you'd use, past the point of quantum decomprehension. This time they enter darkness. Gaal sees nothing, but Demerzel picks up on a high-pitched tone, the sound of a black hole, which means 4 months after Gale's fight with the Mule, a black hole appears and potentially destroys Trantor. My theory, it's connected to Dusk's black hole bomb. Maybe it's even Dusk himself, choosing to go out with a bang as his own twisted form of Ascension. Or maybe Dusk realises the impact of the Mule, and it is ultimately a way of stopping him. Meaning that in some weird fantastical way, Empire might actually be the hero in this part of the story. The more interesting thing here is that Gaal is clearly alive, as Demerzel says she's orbiting a black hole. So does this mean Gale's vision isn't quite the full picture? That something is hidden even to her, almost due to the uncertainty of what is going to happen? Let us know your thoughts on that. Anyways, while we're talking about that theory of Dusk, obviously he's supposed to ascend in 10 days, a couple of episodes ago, but with Day Off World, Dawn dead, and Demerzel gone, someone needs to run Trantor. Cleons can live for longer and retain more memories, so why not delay Ascension, rule for a few more months, and then take Trantor with him? Again, this plays into our theory here. The big question though, will Gale's vision actually come true? Also, I have to show some appreciation for Demerzel saving Gale's life by using her own hands as a defibrillator. Amazing to see, and I thought this overall scene between them both was fantastic to see. Meanwhile, Day heads to Mycogen to meet with Song. On the way, he wanders the streets, buys some treats, and hears about the destruction of the Imperial fleet near Calgon. He doesn't stop, he just keeps going until he's at Song's home, confronting her and hinting she's met a robot. Day asks her to restore her memories of their time together, but she refuses, saying any feelings she had back then were born of fear. And honestly, as a concubine, she could have been playing the long game just to survive. Were those feelings genuine? It's hard to say. Turns out Songbird 17, is in love with someone else, Ocean Glass 49. Ocean shoots Day, and now they've got him at gunpoint. I see two options here. Either Song restores her memory and saves him, or they hold him for ransom, especially now that they know robots exist within Empire. Or they could just kill him. But there's also the possibility, as they hold him for ransom, that they find one of the robot tuning things that obviously Demerzel needs. And upon finding that, I imagine people in Mycogen will want to know where the rest is and where he got this from. So it's all a bit up in the air, but we'll see where that goes. The final act focuses on the Mallows and Magnifico. Tor and Mallow, Beta and Magnifico head to the docks, where Imber locks them up in the same cell as Pritchard. Eventually persuaded, Magnifico plays his instrument, which prompts Imber to realise that how the Mule uses his power, or rather, amplifies them. This leads to a temporary truce between the Traders, Alliance and New Terminus. They all head to the Vault to meet Harry 2.0, who gives his usual speech about uniting sides for the good of the Foundation. But here's the twist. Harry 2.0, or Vault Harry, doesn't know about the Mule.
What is the Mule?
only the original Harry does. Right on cue, the mule appears, tells Harry he's right above them as the new Terminus fleet attack each other, and vows to take over Terminus. Now, Vault Harry here activates the Northfield, adding to the chaos, until the Vault throws up its barriers, protecting itself once again, and that is where we end today's episode. So, overall, I thought this episode was amazing. It's starting to build up nicely now, ready for those last few episodes, which, as we know, will be action-packed. Now, one thing that was interesting in this episode was Demerzel telling Gaal time travel was impossible, and then us realising that Demerzel couldn't see the warp jumps the same way Gaal did. Obviously, Demerzel stays awake during the jumps, but we see that one flashback where Gaal remained awake while jumping. Now, as smart as Demerzel is, there are still clearly things she doesn't know. But not only that, if the possibility of some form of time travel exists, would her code force her to use it to save Empire? Now, it's an interesting topic, however, I do worry that adding time travel to the series could cheapen it. I know we see Gaal's power, but the way it's always come across to me is it was just seeing the future of possibilities, and that was one possibility. Adding full-on time travel would, in my eyes, feel out of place for the series. But if it's possible, clearly the spaces are part of what's needed. So let me know your thoughts on this. Do you get the impression we're about to see some bullshit time travel? I don't know. Let me know. Now, obviously I just mentioned the spaces. I'm bringing it back to the episode and leaning on the spaces a little bit. The mule now has whisper ships, so can warp, but will he learn about the spaces? And more importantly, will he be able to force them to his side? As I suspect the mule isn't able to fully control other mentalics that well. Else, the scene where he has Gaal in the future by her throat and he's asking where the second foundation is, if he could use his powers on mentalics easily, he would just pry that information from her. And also, obviously when Pritchard was on the planet with him, he would have forced Pritchard to stay. So, obviously bringing this all back to the spaces, they always come across to me as an early form of mentalic that humans had somehow managed to create or mess with, obviously as they're engineered. So I wonder if the mule won't be able to affect them too. Either way, going to be interesting. With Foundation now under the control of the mule, if the spaces are immune to his effect, they might once again end up teaming up with Empire in some weird way of the enemy of my enemy is my ally. And obviously this then would play into my theory that Empire might become the hero in this part of the story. Again, let me know your thoughts. It's clear this season is all about the unexpected. Team-ups that we didn't see coming, and old men randomly walking away with dead mathematicians. So yeah, let us know how you're finding this series so far. One little thing too, the scene where Demerzel and Gaal were sat in the ship looked to me like it was deliberately shot in a way to have the Radiant at one side of the screen with Demerzel and then nothing on the other. Almost like there will be a scene in the future where the two Radiants are in the same room once again. Now obviously they are quantum entangled, so theoretically the same, but what if for some reason they needed to be together one more time? I don't know, I think I'm clutching at straws, but the scene to me just felt like we were missing something. And again, to have Demerzel on one side of the screen and Gaal on the other, and then the Radiant not in the middle, but right in front of Demerzel, just feels like it's setting us up for some future scene. Again, let me know your thoughts. Now, finally, Ben and I were discussing things, and he's going to be dropping a video later in the week, and it's around Demerzel, and how Foundation might have ultimately designed for her to be its leader. Now, you won't want to miss out on that. There's going to be a lot of theories and thoughts going into it. So please don't forget to subscribe so you know when that video drops. Anyway then guys, handing it over to you. Do you think time travel will actually happen in the series? And finally, do you think Vault Selden has a way to combat the mule? Will he even want to get involved? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And as I've already mentioned, if you do bring up book spoilers, just let us know at the start of the comment that it's going to include book spoilers so people can avoid them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Again, we'll be dropping that video later on in the week, so look out for it. And as always, we'll catch you next time with something new.